Well, ladies and gentlemen, the Land Cruiser killer. Interesting though, which one specifically, which generation are we going to kill? That's the main question, because we should definitely start with size. In all the photos, it looks as if it's a huge thing, as if it's the Land Cruiser 300, and it doesn't even come close. In fact, it's like the Land Cruiser Prado, a bit bigger than the Land Cruiser Prado. So it's smaller than the H9. Why have they made it like this? This is the fact that annoys me the most. I don't get why, for them, the Tank 500, which was supposed to be the big car, in reality is a tad bit bigger than the Tank 300. And this is the main problem with this car.
Потому что во всем остальном он такой сразу... Это момент просто некомфортно, плохо.
Эмоции не сна.
Я ничего не включал еще, а Саня расплющит по боковому стеклу. Вот где комфорт. Ну просто рука, лицо. Да он точно проедет. Ну и чё? Чтобы воткнуть хоть что-то, вам нужно тык-тык-тык-тык. Чё за бред? В 2 раза, бляха-муха, дороже. Ну все, один косяк решили. Да блин, опять одно не работает, второе. Пошел нафиг, с Новым годом. Это, наверное, не очень, да? У меня, блин, слезы счастья пошли. Все развернулись, пошли покупать прадик. Ну, пипец убогий. Кого спрашивали? Меня, например, не спрашивали. Китайцы, по-моему, охренели. Она так себе. Ну, вообще прям плохо.
The price. Let's start from the very beginning. Pricing. You expect certain prices, as always. In reality, it costs a hell of a lot more. You see in the advertising the prices of 5.1, 5.1, 5.2, 5.7 million rubles, and it seems initially a good idea. But in fact, you won't be able to get the car for this price because the next batch that arrives will arrive with a small increase in the price. I'll try to explain to you why this has happened, and maybe I'll explain it not here, but the next video that we'll do about the Tank 500, between you and me, there will be one, so you gotta wait for it. Our car that we have here is exactly the one that's going to be arriving into Russia officially. Of course, it will get a few updates to eliminate all its faults in terms of software. If you are not aware of these faults yet, then get ready. I will tell you all about them, and you will be meeting them as a first owner or the second owner of the car, but let's hope they'll fix them soon. Buckle up, because this car is not what it appears to be at first glance. But the expectations of it are extremely high. Very high hopes for the Chinese to finally get it right. Why? I think you already know the answer. Because they've been quite good at making SUVs before this. The H9 is at the moment the only body-on-frame SUV available at a more or less adequate price that has many, many good qualities. And there's nothing like that with an official warranty in Russia at present. There is still the only car on offer. The rest is either grey import, very, very old school cars, or something that's incredibly out of date. It's as old as mammoth shit, and it's probably from Japan, but regardless, you still love that kind of stuff. Which is why this car is popular, amongst other things, because the outdated mammoth bullshit is still valued in our country. And, I mean, in Russia in total, not just Moscow. Other big cities also. Cars like this are really needed. Impenetrable, reliable, body on frame. So, we've got the frame here, a rather rigid body, 20,000 Newton meters per degree of twist, which is considered rigid and allowed them to make this panoramic roof. This is one of very few body-on-frame SUVs that have a panoramic roof, and they're not worried about its rigidity. That said, of course, the suspension, the most important thing for cars like this one, has to be reliable and impenetrable. Because, of course, this one, naturally in front, there's an independent suspension. In the back, there's an axle as usual, but an arm type 1. There's no pneumatics, although the first impressions will be extremely deceptive when you drive. I immediately thought that it was very close to it, really. But the lower arms, for example, in the front, they are steel, cast, very hefty, and this is probably what affects your driving experience the most when you're driving along our not-so-ideal roads. Not that I'm not talking about car park tarmac, that's smooth and great, but this asphalt that we usually have in Russia, which was rolled with crooked rollers, and that's the feeling you will have. All these crooked roller, poorly rolled asphalt bits will be felt strongly in this car, and this is probably the first disappointment. There is a reason why we start in the forest, because we need to be rolling and driving through all these gullies and shitty roads. Why? Well, because it's more comfortable here. This is the car's element, and how it drives through all these routes and it drives through all these gullies is in fact something that will bring you joy. This is a strong side of any SUV, and it is necessary to start here. You will be critical of its suspension because you know that an SUV means a certain discomfort on ordinary roads. Nosedives, inclinations, which are, significant. There's a Mercedes behind us right now, a crossover, and it has gone through the turn and the corner much slower than us. Why? Well, because there are simply no such usual giant inclination, and it's amazing. This is the surprise number 2. But for this, it seems you are paying with the reaction to such small, hard bumps, small speed bumps, joints, or just sharp holes. Because sometimes there's a rather strong distortion and annoyance. This is, you feel the suspension is uncomfortable and it's not feeling well. At the same time, it also transmits a lot of these ripples. If you compare it with some other SUVs, maybe not as much, but it does transmit them. It still does. And even some crossovers have it, but still. However, as soon as you pick up speed and it gets higher, all these jumps and bumps increase. You begin to understand that, in principle, nothing changes. Even in this case, maybe some jolts and bolts will get you through, but you understand that this is in no way affecting the suspension. This is the magic of a body-on-frame SUV. That is, in order for this to stop, you need to drive right there on the other side of the road, over the railway, so you drive on the grass in the off-road. It can drive there, you will be driving, you will feel relatively comfortable, much more comfortable than in many other cars, and there will be no ripples, it will simply level everything out. The suspension needs to work, and this is what it's telling us. It's basically saying, oh, I'm heavy, suspension, I have steel cast, lower arms, and like... Its off-road potential is also quite good because the ground clearance on this is 229 millimeters, which is basically 23 centimeters, and that's okay for the lowest point of the car. We'll still test this at our country house, but today it's more of a getting to know it day. We will go through a couple of ditches. We were shown an off-road area here nearby. But on the bright side, now you'll see the videos that you've been asking for in the comments for a long time.
You can note that at the moment you have only one wheel on the hard surface, and without locking, the car can't continue moving. You need to stop. Alright, stop. Great. You'll need the front locking here. Try turning it on.
It has gone over this obstacle without the need to lock any differentials, which is great, because it means it can get out of complicated situations on electronic imitations, and that's nice. I didn't turn on anything, even though they asked me to, because I realized that the car just needs time to work, and it'll calmly and patiently get itself out, which it did. I guess this is indicative. You guys love the roller pads so much. We tried to use them here, and a funny story happened. Once we were driving onto them, the managers told us, now it's time to turn on the rear or the front differential lock for us to be able to get through them. But the electronic system does itself, and it goes really well, and the car works without turning anything on. And for reliability, you need to do it, of course, especially when you're traveling over some moats or ridges or something like that. That'll come in handy for sure. And of course, you have both the front and the rear differential lock, and truth be told, one of them you will only get in the maximum package, which means that if you want a full off-road package, Tank will force you to buy a panoramic roof, cool, beautiful leather interior, and a few other options which you might not need, including these retractable steps, because in the basic package you have stationary ones, and that means you will carry all this extra dirt with you. So what do we get in an off-road environment? Well, here you don't even have to go anywhere, yet we can immediately state an obvious fact. And it seems to me that everyone was upset about the drive, really, except for those who already have an H9. They clearly understand that the H9 goes through everything, everywhere. And during our tests, and we did this in the winter also, you can really drive fast, calmly, easily. Because, of course, the secret is not just in the fact that it's capable, but in the fact that there are also locks, downshifts, lower gears. There's a Borg war in the transfer box, so it works nicely. Well, everything is okay, and the package here is great, because once again, it's not really a gigantic base. It's not the Land Cruiser Prado one, it is the Land Cruiser 300. The overhangs are not too bad. There's a lot of space in the back and in the cabin in general. Once again, the overhangs are 29 at the front, and if I remember correctly, 24 at the back, so your cross-country ability will depend on this, and it works. So, what's this? You know, is it difficult, do you think? It seems to me that they should be at least twice as high. It should easily pass this obstacle, because the ground clearance is 23 centimeters. Let's see what happens. Well, this is quite a funny obstacle for this car too. Yeah, the motion is unclear. This may be difficult for the Tiguan, you know, that could be an indicator. But this one just went over it as if it's nothing. Are you sure it's okay to go through here?
Yes, you can get to try carefully, get a little bit higher.
Вот это, наверное, не очень, да? Вот тут я немножко, да, это, ага. Да, примерно отсюда можно начинать.
So, your road has been blocked by fallen trees. Okay, I must admit it would be more interesting if there were fallen trees here instead of these logs, but nonetheless, we work with what we have. And the comfort is incredible because, you know, in what other car and in what else would I be able to get over these?
Huh?
Oh, God. Contact. All right, done. I'm through. As for everything else, well, I'm deliberately driving over holes, and as you can see, nothing. This is what I love SUVs for. You don't have to worry about anything that's under your wheels. And of course, a very big part of the success of this car and the coolness of it in general is not its looks, but its interior. Because the Chinese are already able to make great interiors. Yes, there are some questions here and there are some mistakes. I'll show you what you will be picky about and what you won't like. But this is only if you've never seen a Toyota. Well, actually, are any words needed here at all? The Chinese, in my opinion, just went nuts. And they really went nuts. And you will be gobsmacked at how well they make the interiors now. Everyone who drove Japanese cars will be speechless for sure. But of course, there are these traditional Chinese fuck-ups which will attract your attention, but... So, Sanya, this can be switched off. Look, they went off. See? The car is off and the lights disappeared. Thank God. So, one problem solved. These stupid stars, they're really, really shabby, really cheap. They should have just made nice LED backlights or something, but they painted the stars. That's an absolute facepalm moment. It's like some school children. Not even school children, I mean like kindergartners. Just ridiculous, it's eye-burning. The same can be said about this wood-like plastic. It is an imitation of wood, but it doesn't look bad anymore. You know why? Because look at this whole interior. It is fucking great. Great buttons, nice levers, the booster, controls, the steering wheel is great, the shift knob is great, the start button is great. And this is how it greets you. An extremely clear, great, large display. The dash is very informative, well, except for the revs and the speed. But it is for an SUV. And there is an off-road mode that's enough. I don't need anything else because the normal mode is terrible. The car is always going somewhere, it's in tunnel, so I don't know what it's for. I'd better get the information that I'm used to, classic setup. So the clock, leather everywhere, many places. The seating is a bit strange. So the electric power steering column is nice, and the seating is odd. I can't quite say what it is because I can't sit like a captain because now the steering wheel is somehow strangely low for me. Although, I managed to find this position that's comfortable for me, and the steering wheel, well, it lies right on my knees. I mean, not even the steering wheel itself, but the cruise control paddles. So I'm switching them on and off with my knees. Quite uncomfortable to activate. So it seems there is some margin above the head, but nevertheless, as a result, you need to sit lower in order to feel comfortable. Ventilated seats, heated seats, steering wheel heating, windshield heating, all this has been done. All this is an adaptation for Russia. These are the things you won't get in every car in China, so it will be available here, which is nice. You will turn on this whole off-road package, which is comprehensive. It is made and located comfortably, which is an important part. There are a lot of sub-menus. You can dig into these settings, and I think you can get lost here quite easily because the translations can be interesting. It says user agreement, even though we're talking about cabin sound settings. Front wireless charger, although this is the rear charger. Rear wireless charger with the image of this front charger. Why? Why does it say rear here? Rear seats here written as one word. Roof mode, whatever that is. Steering wheel booster mode. Illumination. I guess the original, it was supposed to say light, but we have illumination here. Exit panorama. Exit panorama. Great, right, don't tap it, that's scary. Panorama activated. This is not about the roof, it's the panoramic view, the 360 degrees. And exit panorama means exiting this mode. Total number of stops, WTF. Here's the cause of all these troubles. Version 1.0, so we're waiting for the software update. The big minus related not only to the translation, but also the glitches, because yesterday when we were driving, some driving modes wouldn't even turn on, and instead it just showed us the distance to empty. Just right here, distance to empty suddenly appeared. Why? No matter what we pressed or turned here, distance to empty, and the adaptive cruise control didn't even turn on. So the limiter worked, the cruise control didn't. We restarted the car and everything started to work. And these are the first main glitches that the owners will probably face. I like the general package very much. I like the way it looks, the way it's done. I like that you have a charger here. I'm not a fan of the USB though, because I was unable to find it yesterday whilst driving. It's impossible. And even when you stop, it will take you quite a lot of time and effort to locate it. I'm very angry. And you'd think, what USB? What are you talking about? It should be on the other side. But no, nothing from the passenger. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Only on the driver's side. Only the driver can plug his phone in. So to plug something in, you'll have to stop. With everything else being clearly visible and comfortable, and this is probably the most important thing, because the cameras will leave you stunned with their clarity and capabilities. On the whole, the cameras in this car are simply fantastic. You can't put it any other way. The large screen and the high-quality cameras make a very good impression, especially when you're driving, but mainly the side ones, because the front one and the one that records the bottom makes your bonnet go transparent, and it remembers where you've passed. That one's mediocre. Well, actually, it's bad. But there is a washer in the back for the camera, which is nice, because it also is an indicator that the car has been thought through a little. Sometimes it turns on these cameras when you're driving next to trees, and it's really cool that, I even wanted to film it extra. And it's nice because you can see everything. Oh, where have they disappeared to again? Yesterday we were passing in between trees, narrow spaces. I really enjoyed this when we were driving around, filming and checking and looking up for extra locations. It's really nice. So this seems to be the memory option, and in my opinion, that didn't quite really work.
Этой штуки вы увидите совсем скоро, но здесь я не для этого, для того, чтобы выгрузить из багажника инверторный генератор Denzel, который сейчас тестю на участке очень пригодится, потому что у нас уже несколько раз отключали электричество. А это, смотрите, переносная штука, номинальная мощность 1,8 киловатта, максимальная 2,2 киловатта. На одной заправке может работать более 3 часов, а потом заправил еще и еще будет работать, да? Есть всевозможные защиты и гарантия, что самое главное, 3 года. Поэтому, если вы хотите себе такой же или какой-нибудь другой, выбор там действительно у них большой, то переходите по ссылке в описании, там же найдете мой промокод на скидочку и заказывайте. Хоп.
There is projection on the windscreen, no questions, everything works. I like the music too. The upholstery and the finish are okay. The leather is perhaps a little too reddish, but this is in the style of BMW, so, someone might like it. We won't discuss this much, but there is this soft upholstery like Alcantara. It's not Alcantara, it's like rubber Alcantara, a little. But it's also very soft and great. The ceiling is really cool, nicely done, but what is this thing? What is this, guys? There's neither a holder for sunglasses, nor there's a handle. Why haven't they put a holder for sunglasses here? It seems like an easy, on the surface solution, but as a result, you have an empty space here, an indentation, as if you haven't put a handle because you want to save money. The seats are okay, and in terms of comfort, everything is fine. They haven't made any errors with either the width or the track, but there is some side support. It doesn't really help in this car at all, because the center of gravity is really high. It doesn't seem to tilt during turns, but when I turn and Sanya is spread over the side window, so I say, Sanya, it doesn't tilt. And he says, yeah, right, it doesn't tilt at all. Because, well, it is what it is. And still, everyone who is not holding the steering wheel or something else in the car will be flying around, especially the passengers. So let's move on to the engine, because here is one hidden detail that perhaps not everyone will appreciate. After all, a Land Cruiser Prado is chosen because of diesel. But here, diesel cannot be, as diesel and luxury, in Tank's opinion, cannot mix. And they do have these aspirations towards luxury. So I found the latch. In brief, it's a turbo V6 like the one on the Toyota Land Cruiser. It is very similar after all. It has 299 brake horsepower, and it feels like as if it's slightly derated. I don't understand why they've derated it, because it's all the same. It still doesn't fix the Russian tax rule, and it's quite difficult to make such power. It is 350 brake horsepower in China. To fit the tax rule in Russia, you would need to do something with the 100 brake horsepower that you have. They haven't figured it out, so 299 brake horsepower, tax is big. Why have they done it? Easy, to reduce the import tax rate. They managed to derate it significantly, and this is probably part of that price magic. They've really managed to do something cool with the price. Why? Because, it's strange, right? I opened the hood and started talking about the price. Well, this is the premium luxury segment, as they say. How did it happen? Because even now, and I'm saying now because we can only talk about pre-order prices, if you want to import it through Ian Cars, for example, it will cost you $80,000 US. At the current exchange rate, today, it will be, let's say, 6 million, 6.2, 6.4. I mean, the exchange rate is jumping, so you're looking at between 6 and 6.4 million. And the official price is lower because there you have the full power version. But here you get the derated one. And of course, immediately that hints to us that they've deliberately lowered the price in Russia a little for now. And very soon the price will jump up in the same way as it does with other cars. Get ready, because a lot of people will want this car. Everyone will want it for sure, because the state procurement has already begun. There are no black cars available on the market. Well, let's get back to the engine, because it seems that in this segment, no one bothers about reliability anymore. This engine is aluminium. Aluminium. The cylinders are, unfortunately, also aluminium. Yes, with spring. Twin-turbo engine. I don't know what else I should tell you to make you turn around and go buy a Land Cruiser Prado. Because to me, that's enough. There are no tax pluses, and it will hardly be reliable over 1 million kilometers. Yes, there's a 5-year warranty, 3 years plus 2 extended for basic parts on the car. They do seem to give those, but that doesn't really matter to anyone but the first owner. And how it will behave afterwards, no one knows, as usual. Well, not much can be done here, so, it also has a mild hybrid component, which, well, I haven't really felt yet. Perhaps there's a problem with this particular car because various things have been fucking up whilst we were filming. We're still getting a little bit surprised here and there. I tried to make it demonstrate to us, to force it to make it stop itself, start itself somewhere, show us the hybrid motions. But not even the start-stop function is really working. Which is strange, although at the same time, it does show that it's charging some battery, it is gathering energy. We've seen 43% on the dash many times. So that's that. So here's the mild hybrid component. There is a battery and a starter generator and an inverter. It has all of them, but in various places. One part is here, one part is over there, and the third part is either in the trunk or at the bottom of the car. I don't remember exactly, but we'll figure it out a little later. All the control units are here on the left, and they're very high, which is good. It states that it's able to go through 80 centimeters of water, which is nice. The air intake is turned the other way, so that when you drive into the water won't get inside immediately, which obviously doesn't count the flashbacks that you'll get from the waves coming back, and they might get in. The next thing is, of course, the automatic transmission. 9 gears are way too much, if you ask me, but the transmission is their own, so the Chinese are at that stage, they make their own gearboxes. It's nice. It is a GWM. So we told you about the automatic transmission. Now, what's the next point that will make you run to a Toyota? Of course, it's the coupling elements, because here is a 4-wheel drive, proper good one, not a part-time one like on the Tank 300. And we've already seen the capabilities of the H9 through a coupling. And here it's the rear-wheel drive, followed by automatically switching on the front one. On the roads, this is feeling like a crossover, and that's given this car a lot. The couplings have ensured that it behaves like a passenger car, be it a gigantic one, and in huge, this ensures that the behavior is very, very smooth for a body-on-frame SUV, and that's really a good thing. Of course, we have a petrol engine here, not a diesel one, which means that at very low speeds and low RPM, there is not enough power in ordinary modes, but of course, if we put it into lower gears, it works, but we're not going to discuss that because we're driving a normal car. And the diesel allows you to drive more smoothly at idling situations, and this is probably the only thing that this car will make you miss. Otherwise, the driving is on another level. At first, it seems that there is something to complain about. The steering gear ratio is too sharp for an SUV, and the steering wheel must be, something that we used to in a Land Cruiser when you kind of turn it halfway there and nothing actually happens. But nothing like that is happening here. This is a very, very nice steering from quite a nimble car. And that's the first point that you noticed. At the same time, there is not a lot of information on the steering wheel, of course. It's light, but at the same time sharp, which might not always be good for an SUV. But that's when you have a classical SUV underneath, such that you don't expect anything good from it on the tarmac, because it'll swivel from side to side, but there's none of it here. This is an SUV, and it behaves and feels like a crossover. Thanks to what? That's right, just like I've already said, thanks to its drivetrain and the attitude that allowed the factory to step away from its off-roadness a little bit. It's telling me all this now beeping because we have all these assistants turned on, and I really want to turn them off, especially the line warning. Jesus Christ. Sonia, help me. Oh, help. Yes, the 8 system, yeah, the rear, the sides, the front. Damn. Moving along the line. Yeah, both. Let's keep urgent keeping with the line. Sound. Yep. Oh, vibration is off. All right, the warning sensitivity doesn't matter. That's it. Yeah, I hope it'll beep less for now. Yes! Finally, we've done it. What a joy. So, the engine and the gearbox is the next point that we need to talk about, because the engine is powerful and we need to look at the dynamics closer. So, standard mode first, not turning any sports functions on, we'll try it later. And off we go. All right. Wow. Well, it kicks into second really fast. Started so calmly, but seems to come to its senses. All right. Yeah, good. All right. 8.36. Well, see, you all told me that it's not going to do it. The documents state over 9 seconds, and now, even with a hitch, it accelerated in 8.36 to 100. Nice. Cool. I do feel that it has some more dynamics. Yeah, it feels as if we're being lied to. So, sport mode activated. Now we've selected the sport mode. So we're on a hunt for some good times. Launch control. Wait. We have launch control. Stop. All right. Let's try and do this. Launch control is on.
Launch control.
Damn. Whoa, second, third, fourth. Jeez, that's fast. Oh, 8.7. Still slower. Launch control did everything great, but it seems that there's so many gears that it has to switch them so often. At the end, it still went slower. That's bullshit. Nonsense. Let's do it again. I didn't like the launch control, you know? Why you have to put it there if it still switches everything 35 times and it doesn't go? It's too slow. It's being dumb. Third, oh God, what's going on? Jesus, it's like jerking around. Bloody hell. 8.49 in the end. Without the launch control, it's 8.49. Something's definitely wrong. There's a billion of switches, and it looks very strange, to be honest.
Тырканье и пырканье, это странно очень выглядит, если честно.
There'll be even more questions when you start driving fast and when you want to show off its acceleration. And we've been accelerating now, and it's crystal clear that something is wrong. Something's not working right with the algorithm of this launch control that it has. An SUV now has a launch control. That's great, right? What do you need to do for it? You need to switch off the ESC, and that's it. Nothing else. Yep, you need to select Sport Mode 2. Yep. 2.6 is the first burst. Second. Nice move on from the second. There we go. It did everything okay now. Yesterday, it was as if it was switching an extra gear. The time was always slower than when I started with the Sport Mode, but without the launch control. So what the hell? Why does something different happen every single time we start? I really don't like it. And one more thing, a safety feature is noticeable. When you start after the lights, the pedal hits the floor, and the first move is like it feels as if it's made half-heartedly. The engine wakes up, gives it beans, you feel the big burst and the acceleration. Maybe the second turbine kicks in, I don't know, but there is definitely a safety feature at the start. You can feel it with the gearbox as well. It's very, very noticeable, very noticeable. But the dynamics are still great for such a giant. So you understand that it goes faster and not like it should with the power that is stated. So first of all, minus a second from the stated time. That is significant. That means that they've cheated us somewhere a little, but in general we can say that everything's okay with the dynamics. But I'm sure we're all interested in the fuel consumption because there's a lot of power. It's a twin-turbo engine, and twin-turbo engines have never before consumed little fuel. And even with these 3-liter super turbo engines that appeared in the Land Cruiser, the consumption was always high, just like it was with large-sized, naturally aspirated engines. So yesterday, over the entire driving day, we did drive some fast bits, but mainly it was standard driving in no traffic jams, speeds of 130 kilometers an hour, and then, you know, here and there with speeds of 90 kilometers an hour. I got into the car before filming, and it showed 12.8 liters for 100 kilometers. And as soon as we started to shoot, the figures immediately started to change. But by the end of the driving sessions, with some fast accelerations that we did today, it's already showing 14.2. Today, I'm seeing 16 liters for 100. That's because we've been in a few traffic jams today already, and, you know, there's been idle working. So, in general, on average, the consumption will be 15, 14 liters. I think this is a normal story. Perhaps if you're lucky and you drive at medium to slow speeds, you may hit the 11, 12 liters per 100K. In ideal conditions. So, not much savings to be had from this car. Apart from it being extremely good at braking, it does not brake in a linear way. You quite can't understand how it does it, but, you know, the first impressions is that it brakes gradually. So if you compare it to a Land Cruiser, for example, you press the pedal and you do feel that it's heavy, but it kind of continues to move. This one, with the same effort, it kind of brakes extra at the end. And sometimes you're braking, you don't change the pressure on the pedal, but you can feel that it's gradually changing the pressure itself. And then the slower you get, the more it kind of jumps, and then it relaxes a little. There are these little aspects of braking that can surprise you, but that being said, for this huge car, the braking is good. So you'd be stunned when you sit down in the back of the car, because tears of joy were on my face. I was unhappy after the first ride, really unhappy. But when I sat down on the back, I was ready to buy this thing. All right, the back seats. All right, I'm getting in here for the second time, and I am stunned by the softness and the comfort. Just look at those seats. I can't remember any car where the back seats were that soft. Secondly, look at the space available. I mean, you can fit here. Look at the top of my head. And this is a body-on-frame car. I could not fit in the Lexus LX 600, and nothing you can do about it. In here, I can sit comfortably. It's reclined. There's still some margin of space. And once again, this is a body-on-frame for large people, you know, at the back. And having sat here, I realize I don't want to sit there anymore. It's better here than in the Lexus. It's better here than in any luxury segment crossover, at least in terms of the comfort of the seats themselves. I have to say, all of China's love for the back seats is best reflected in SUVs, and that's really great. They improve all of these SUVs in a way that will be great, so we hope that other car manufacturers will also start to improve them. So well done. One can easily fall in love with the Tank 500. I'd really buy this car, but not for myself, for somebody to drive me in it. So you buy this car with a driver, and now it's clear why the employees of many federal security services have bought all the black tanks in the market. It looks like they've seen the benefits. So the manufacturers changed his mind regarding the huge spare tire at the back that we could have seen, because they've conducted a survey and the respondents have said no. Whom they asked, I don't know. I was a potential buyer. They've never asked me a question. But anyway, that's why we have this door here. It only has a suction cup that helps you close it at the very end. There are no closing aids from the beginning. But then again, the system is familiar. The H9 has the same, and as do many other cars. There is a stop, all right? Yep. And the door won't knock you out when it's windy. Thank you. So, the trunk. Well, you can see it's bad. You don't have any fancy trunk options here. Everything is quite high because the spare is obviously located underneath. Here it is, hanging at the bottom. It takes away some of the angle, but then again, it protects your bumper from any folds and any situations where it could, drag some sand along or something like that. So there's no third row. We know that it exists in China, but for us, they're pondering whether we need it or not as usual. Well, probably not, because there is one important reason why we ended up with such trunk, because the back seats are simply fantastic. So how have they done it? The Japanese are unable to. The Range Rover doesn't always succeed. I remember testing the short Range Rover, and it was crap. You couldn't get in. It's absolutely useless. And this is even shorter than the short Range Rover. But it's more comfortable to get in. It's more comfortable to sit in. It's better than the Range Rover in everything. Not the last one, but the one with the super electric drives. It's crap compared to the Tank. We've also got great climate controls. Look at them. It's almost like Audi. It looks good. It doesn't feel like Audi, but it does look like Audi. 2 USB ports, very nice. A retractable block. Air outtakes here and in the back, because there can't be a third row, so it's a small hint for you. Everything is made great, given all those things we've discussed. And again, here's your armrest. Look at it. Check this out. Awesome. Everything is covered by a big screen, which is nice again. We usually get such things for big money, but all the necessary controls and the music is included is right here. The seats have a massage. There is massage seats in the back. massage in the back. Great. Unfortunately, no electric control for the adjustment for the seats, only these side adjustments, and you can see that there's this small side block which is in line with your shoulders, so when you're sitting upright it's okay, but if you tilt it down there is a bit uncomfortable. But all in all, there's a charger, a small box, so this car is perfect for traveling for 4 people, and the passengers in the back will enjoy the ride even more than those in the front. Sanya, I now see a completely different side to this car. When I was in the driver's seat, I was critical of it. There were bits and bobs that I wanted to nib on, and it wasn't set up right, it wasn't finished here or there, and the expectations were too high. Now that I'm sitting in the back, I didn't even expect that it could be this great. And damn, it feels fantastic. This is the best SUV and maybe even the best crossover for the passengers to sit in the back. In terms of the comfort of the seats and the space available, and you have to understand there is a lot of space, I immediately have the urge to travel in this thing. I immediately want to go somewhere from here as far as we can. Let's go to Karelia, let's go somewhere else. It doesn't matter where, let's just go. Damn, these seats are amazing. The most important thing is that they've made it better than the cars that are 3 times more expensive. And for this, the Chinese deserve the utmost respect. They have many really great things. And there are some things that can irritate you at times. And those irritations make you think, Jesus, I've paid so much money already. Why? But this is how they make things now. You know? This is how it's done, and it's like this Chinese twist. And the soundproofing is really good. I mean, the car is big. Have you seen the front of this locomotive? We are going at 110 kilometers an hour, and there isn't that much noise. That's really good. As for the coating, initially the situation is very mild here, so there are no rigid mud guards, so you'll definitely need to cover it. 100% anti-corrosion is required, because even the Land Cruiser Prados require anti-corrosion coats. And it's better to do all of this because our memory is still fresh. The H9s have these problems, so spare no expense doing it. The first thing you do, anti-corrosion coating once you buy this car. So here are these bumps, and this is what the car is made for such a road, because exactly like you don't feel comfortable when it reacts to small bumps, it reacts the same way to medium and big bumps, and you just carry on going, and it stops bothering you because it's the same for the small and the big bumps. And now you realize that the suspension is actually working because it reacts to everything in the same way. The energy capacity and the impenetrability have started to work. The suspension started to work in its element. Nice. So you'll praise this car when the road is bad and you'll go, here is why I bought it. But when the road is good, you'll be damning it. But I mean, that goes for all SUVs, just because that's how they're made. And at the back, I think I'm ready to forgive everything because it's awesome. Everything that one needs to be happy. A soft ceiling, panoramic roof, and the seats in which you can literally fall asleep. So it's quiet in the car. It's quiet enough. We are currently driving the maximum package available, and it has laminated glazing, so I expect that it's even quieter than the standard version. So it's fine. Oh, here we go. The engine is saying hello to us. The sound of the amplifier, thanks to the speakers, because there is active noise suppression here, and the speakers help you give some sound in the engine. And the sound is pleasant. It's not super artificial like in the previous versions of many cars, because they finally learned how to do and how to make this sound so it feels good. Sometimes, though, for example, we drove yesterday before we hit the sport modes and all of that. It was really, really quiet. And I was accelerating and I thought to myself, wow, the engine is really isolated. Someone will say the back seats are not the main thing. I will say that in this car, this is a very big part of its success, and it's cool that they made them like that. Why did I get upset at first and then, well, I don't know. The first impression was, damn, something shakes in the suspension, some really weird noises, steering is too sharp. And you start kind of like nitpicking purely as a reviewer. And at first it was like, oh, fuck, they set it up wrong again. Damn, these Chinese, when will you learn? I want more comfort, better suspension to drive all these hard bumps without shaking the life out of me. It was comfortable at first, then the first movement starts stunning you, and then it kind of just all falls apart in frustration. You think, damn, again, one thing works, the other thing doesn't. It's a failure. And then Sanya drove me around in the back seat. I enjoyed it. Moved back to the front. And whilst I was driving in the back, I recalled the Land Cruiser Prado, the 300, the Lexus, the Pajero Sport, the Fortuners, all these body-on-frames, including the H9, and they still, do this tilting when they brake, they tilt from side to side, and this one doesn't. I even remembered the 300. And then I thought that no body-on-frame car, as long as it doesn't have pneumatic suspension, drives like the Tank 500. All of them are shabby, archaic, uncomfortable, wobbly, shaky, because there's large non-spring loaded weight, a lot of it. And none of them are like this car in terms of handling. And you start to realize that for an SUV, in terms of its behavior on the road, and that's exactly how you use it, it will neither fail nor disappoint you on the road and off the road. And this, in general, gives you the impression of an okay car. Yes, there are some faults in the settings, but if the manufacturer will get rid of them, then you can put any badge on this car. If you put the Toyota badge here, and it will cost, as I said again, it will cost like the 300, maybe even more. It should cost you even more if you put the Toyota brand on here. No other brand, no other manufacturer can do this like the Chinese. But the Chinese can. Only they can give you so much in this price range. And I think this is the conclusion. This definitely looks like a conclusion. The only thing left for us to do now is to place it somewhere in our rating. And I think that many are expecting for this car to jump right to the top. And it might have happened if all of us could have officially bought this car at the price that was stated for the pre-order. But let's place this car regardless of the markups. Let's place it now and let's see what happens. Maybe it's just the first wave of demand. All models are always more expensive in the first wave. Maybe later the prices will stabilize. And then what? Number one. Really? So the new leader. This is really a unique situation with the Tank 500 because it isn't significantly more expensive than the Tank 300, while it's bigger and better in everything. It costs a lot for any person who'll look at it and say, 6 million for a Chinese SUV? Have you lost your mind? But on the other hand, how long ago have you seen the prices of the Toyotas? The LC300, for example, or the Prado? It's even more expensive. Yeah, well, maybe you'll bring it in some funky way, maybe you'll get lucky with the exchange rate, and it will cost the same or even 300,000 rubles less if you're lucky. But it is a bucket compared to this car. It's a real bucket. It should be compared to the Land Cruiser 300, but the Land Cruiser 300 is twice as expensive. Twice. Okay, yes, we'll take the dealer markups and then it'll be 1.5 times more expensive. And that's when you realize that the Chinese have made a fantastic car. And if you have the money for it, you should definitely take it. The choice is very simple. That's it from me. Thank you very much, everyone, for the attention, and see you soon. Bye-bye.